You already know more than you think, but you just don't know how to read the signs yet. Every person leaves clues. A hesitation mid-sentence, a glance that lingers too long or ends too soon, a laugh that's just a fraction too loud for the moment. They are like cracks in the paint, small enough to ignore if you're not looking, but once you notice them, they change the way you see the whole picture. These signals are everywhere, in every conversation, in every interaction, but most of us have been trained from birth to ignore them. We're taught to listen to words and take them at face value, as if language were the whole truth. But Nietzsche warned us, the surface is rarely the reality. The smile you see may be a shield. The voice you hear may be a performance. And the person you think you know, may be wearing a mask they've forgotten is even there. Nietzsche's 18 psychological truths will show you how to look beyond the mask. This isn't guesswork, and it isn't about turning you into some cold, calculating observer. It's about giving you the eyes to see the subtle, the skill no one teaches you. Because once you learn to read these signs, you'll realize that people are speaking the truth all the time, just not with their words. And here's the warning. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll notice when someone's charm is hiding fear. You'll hear the insecurity behind the brag. You'll spot the pain behind the deflection. And in that moment, the world will feel different, sharper, more honest, maybe even more human. This is not a quick tip or a viral trick. It's a deep breakdown in 3 parts, each one building on the last. Skip one, and you'll miss the foundation. But stay with me, and by the end, you won't just understand others. You'll understand yourself in ways you never imagined. So let's begin. From the moment we enter the world, we learn one thing. Who we are isn't always safe to show. So we adapt. We build a version of ourselves we hope the world will accept. It's not about deception, it's about survival. Nietzsche understood this better than most. He called it the mask. Truth number 1. Everyone wears a mask to survive. The overly kind person might not be pure generosity. They may be terrified of rejection. The confident leader who commands the room might be holding themselves together by a thread, praying no one sees the cracks. Masks are armor, but armor always leaves seams. And the first sign of truth is tension. Watch for the moments that make someone uncomfortable, the shifting in a chair, the sudden glance away, the subtle tightening of the mouth. That's where the real person begins. Truth number 2. What someone hates in others often reveals what they hide in themselves. Nietzsche saw projection as one of humanity's sharpest tells. The man who mocks arrogance may be fighting his own insecurities about worth. The person who constantly calls out dishonesty may be hiding truths they can't face. We hate in others what we fear in ourselves, and that's why criticism is often a confession. Truth number 3. Silence reveals more than words. Language, Nietzsche believed, was often the tool of the herd, a way to avoid reality rather than face it. Listen to the pauses. Notice when someone dodges a subject, gives a short rehearsed answer to a deep question, or changes topics when it cuts too close. In those silences, they've told you everything. Truth number 4. Excessive virtue is often disguised vanity. Be wary of the one who loudly proclaims their moral purity, who is quick to correct and quicker to condemn. Nietzsche called this the will to power in disguise, morality as a mask for superiority. Real goodness doesn't need applause. Truth number 5. People lie to themselves before they lie to you. The phrase, "I am fine," is often not for your benefit. It's a story they've told themselves so many times they believe it. This isn't evil, it's self-preservation. But the inconsistencies are the giveaway. A story that doesn't quite add up isn't just a deception. It's a breadcrumb trail to the truth. Truth number 6. Where someone feels superior, they're hiding inferiority. The endless bragging, the subtle put-downs, the need to dominate every conversation. These aren't signs of real strength. They're overcompensation. Behind the throne often sits a frightened child, wearing a crown to hide the fear of being overlooked. And this is where we shift our focus. Reading people is not about catching them in a lie or gaining leverage. It's about seeing the story they don't know how to tell. It's about recognizing that the mask isn't their enemy, it's their shield. But once you know how to spot the seams, you'll never look at people the same way again. Masks work until they don't. Nietzsche understood that the self is not some unshakable monument, but a performance held together by threads. And when those threads are pulled, the truth begins to leak through. Truth number 7. Most actions are driven by unconscious fear. Why does someone dominate a conversation? Why do they disappear entirely in a group? Why do they say yes when every part of them means no? Fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of humiliation. Fear of failure. Fear of being unworthy. Nietzsche believed humans rarely act from pure desire. They act from what they terrified to lose. So when you want to read someone, stop asking what they want. Start asking what they're afraid of. Truth number 8. Excessive criticism is projection. The person who mocks emotional people may be running from their own feelings. The one who belittles others for their looks may be at war with their own reflection. Criticism, Nietzsche said, is almost never about the target. It's a mirror, and if you trace it back to the source, you'll find the wound it's meant to hide. Truth number 9. Guilt hides behind false confidence. There's a kind of person who seems unshakable, perfectly in control, always prepared. But if you watch closely, you'll see the clenched jaw, the defensiveness under pressure, the way they overprepare for even small things. That's not peace, it's performance. Sometimes, the louder someone broadcasts certainty, the more they're trying to bury something they regret. Truth number 10. Exaggeration reveals the hidden truth. When someone insists, "I don't care what anyone thinks," they usually care deeply. When they say, "I'm always happy," they usually aren't. Extreme statements are the ego's way of drowning out doubt. And if you listen past the volume, you'll hear the insecurity underneath. Truth number 11. The desire for control masks inner chaos. The person who micromanages everything, who can't handle change, who has to control every conversation, they're not always strong. Often, they're terrified. The stricter the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self. Truth number 12. The louder the performance, the emptier the core. Social media is full of it. The endless posing, the constant updates, the carefully curated identity. Nietzsche didn't see that as strength. He saw it as desperation. People who truly know themselves don't need to be watched. They're already whole. The performance isn't power. It's a whisper of need. By now, the shift is happening. You walk into a room and you start to see it. The interruption that comes from fear of being forgotten. The brag that's hiding an invisible wound. You're not reading minds. You're reading the cracks in the mask. Nietzsche handed us the flashlight. And once you start shining it, you can never unsee the truth. Every mask hides a crack, and every crack leads to the truth. But the deepest truths aren't just in someone's face or body language. They live in the story they've carried since childhood. Nietzsche believed that behind every belief, every reaction, every defense, there's a wound. And when you see that wound, you don't just understand the person, you understand their soul. Truth number 13. No one speaks from pure logic. They speak from pain. People justify their views with reasons, but those views were born from something they survived. A broken heart can become a lifelong cynicism about love. A betrayal can become a distrust of everyone. When you want to know why someone believes what they do, don't just ask what happened. Ask what hurt them so badly they never want to feel it again. Truth number 14. How someone reacts to weakness reveals their real power. True strength isn't shown in how we treat equals, but in how we treat those who can't fight back. If someone mocks vulnerability, they fear their own. If they punish mistakes harshly, it may be because they were never allowed to make any. The strongest people aren't the loudest. They the ones who can witness weakness and choose compassion. Truth number 15. Fear of being forgotten drives the hunger for attention. The loudest person in the room isn't always the most confident. Sometimes they the most afraid. The child who was ignored becomes the adult who performs, who creates noise, not because they love the spotlight, but because silence feels like death. Truth number 16. The person they attack is often the person they envy. It's easier to destroy than to admit desire. Criticism can be disguised admiration, a painful reminder of what we've abandoned in ourselves. When you recognize this, petty hate loses its power. Truth number 17. People act out their childhood, not their beliefs. The roles we were forced to play as children, the listener, the pleaser, the fighter, the invisible one, follow us into adulthood. Behavior is biography. Every cold, distant adult was once a child told that emotions were dangerous. Every overachiever was once a kid who thought love had to be earned. Truth number 18. Patterns are confessions. You don't need someone to tell you their deepest fear. They will show you over and over again. The friend who vanishes when you get too close. The partner who works constantly to avoid stillness. The flirt who never truly connects. These aren't random, they're survival strategies. And if you learn to listen to them, you'll hear the truth before it's spoken. When you see this, something changes. You stop taking things personally. You stop judging so quickly. You become a mirror, not a weapon. Because now you understand, most people aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to survive you. And in that realization, you hold the choice Nietzsche wanted you to make. Not to manipulate, but to awaken. To see the mask, the crack, and the soul, and still choose grace. You've now seen all three layers. The mask people wear, the cracks where it breaks, and the soul that hides beneath. This isn't a trick to use at parties, and it's not a weapon to hold over someone. It's a responsibility. Because once you learn to see people this clearly, you can't unsee them. You'll walk through the world knowing that behind every polished smile might be a storm. Behind every boast, an old wound. Behind every act of cruelty, a deep and unhealed fear. Nietzsche never wanted this insight to make you cynical. He wanted it to make you awake. To stop being fooled by appearances, not so you could win, but so you could connect. Because the more clearly you see others, the more clearly you see yourself. Every truth you've learned today doesn't just belong to them. It belongs to you. The mask you wear, the cracks in your own armor, the child inside you still trying to be safe. So the next time you look at someone, a stranger on the street, a colleague in a meeting, a loved one across the table, remember, they retelling you their story in ways they don't even know. You just have to listen with more than your ears. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 18 truths hit you the hardest? Which one made you think of someone in your life? Or maybe of yourself? Drop it in the comments. Let's create a space where we see through the masks together. And if you want more of these deep dives into the human mind, subscribe. This is just the beginning. Because once you start seeing the truth in others, you can never go back.